past year, 2024, Nigerian non-oil export grew in value by 20.77% year-on-year, over and above what we had in 2023. Non-oil export performance continued its upward trajectory in the first quarter of this year, 2025, where it grew by 24.7%. Last year, Nigeria exported 243 distinct agricultural products to 146 countries. I think we should clap for that. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in 2024, Nigerian exporters traded with 39 African countries, with agro-products forming a significant share of that trade. This intra-African export was valued at $462 million US. That's also another big volume. Can we clap for ourselves? And this provided millions of jobs across agro-processing, textiles, cosmetics, ICT-enabled services.
Today, Africa finds itself navigating all manner of crises, multiple crises, from the lingering effects of COVID-19 pandemic to climate shocks, food insecurity, energy insecurity, global supply chain disruptions, and mounting debt vulnerabilities. These already fractured and economic trade system is further battered by nationalistic, protectionistic tendencies, as well as wars. What we thought were emerging wars are now becoming actual wars and conflicts, including those of trade and tariffs. These overlapping crises have exposed the fragility of our dependence on external markets and supply routes. But they have also crystallized a powerful truth. Africa can no longer afford to look outward first. We must urgently turn inward, deepen our integration, and build resilient regional value chains that serve African needs with African solutions. Intra-African trade is no longer a developmental aspiration. It is an imperative for survival, for recovery, and long-term prosperity. We need an Africa-first mentality, not as a slogan, but as a deliberate strategic shift to prioritize African production, African capital, and African innovation. That is why today's theme is so apt: harnessing regional and continental value chains, accelerating Africa's industrialization and global competitiveness under the AFCFTA. It is also the reason that Afreximbank has made the successful implementation of the AFCFTA, the backbone of our strategy. We recognize that the trade cannot flourish where barriers exist, whether in the form of tariffs, logistic bottlenecks, regulatory fragmentation, or even lack of access to trade and market information. This is also why the bank is not only financing trade, but we are actively intervening to remove the obstacles that prevent it. We're gathered here to champion one of the most important tools for the implementation of the AFCFTA, the Intra-African Trade Fair 2025. Through IATFs, we are bridging critical market and information gaps. We are connecting buyers and sellers. We are connecting investors to investment opportunities. We are connecting venture capitalists to ventures. We are creating a single continental marketplace where African businesses can discover each other, they can transact, and they can grow together. The IATF has become a platform for solutions. It drives real trade flows, opening access to new markets, accelerating the practical implementation of the AFCFTA. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Our data told us one truth. Africans were not trading with one another, not because of a lack of will, but because of lack of market intelligence, connectivity, and structured platforms. Historically, our trade patterns and trade routes were hardwired to the outward, to Europe for machinery, to Asia for textiles, to the Americas for food, and to actually, literally, everywhere in the world we imported from, whatever, wherever. And we ignored what we have at home.
In West Africa, Nigeria emerged as the region's largest intra-African trading country, as trade with the rest of Africa expanded to reach approximately $18.4 billion in 2024, up from just $8.1 billion in 2023. At the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and its agency, NEPC, represented right there by the woman of the moment in charge of non-oil exports in Nigeria, we've been at the helm of driving the acceleration and diversification of Nigeria's non-oil exports. Just last month, in partnership with UNDP and Uganda Airlines, the FMITI launched Nigeria's first intra-African air cargo corridor, connecting Abuja and Lagos to 13 Eastern and Southern African economies, significantly lowering freight rates by up to 50% and enabling faster delivery of cosmetics, agro-processing, and fashion goods to Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, just in our maiden flight. In the same month, we also unveiled an AFCFTA market intelligence tool co-developed with UNDP, providing sector-specific trade insights across 13 African markets. This tool offers exporters data on tariffs, standards, packaging, regulations, shipping routes, buyer trends, and more in high-growth sectors like agribusiness, cosmetics, and textile. The Agro Corridor and Intelligence Tool together address the logistics and information gaps that have historically held intra-African trade at bay. This is especially relevant in services. According to UNDP's Africa service exports could double in the coming years, driven by digital trade, fintech, professional services, creative content, and e-commerce.
At Afreximbank, we are trying to change this narrative and also focus on replacing some of those products that can be produced here in Nigeria by the Manufacturers Association that can actually be traded throughout the continent. So if you look at some of these products, take for example the pharmaceutical products, we are importing more than 96% of those products. But there's an opportunity for the continent to actually develop the pharmaceutical sector. We can produce the active pharmaceutical ingredients using our biodiversity resources, our traditional knowledge. We need to tap into that and actually build this sector. You can also talk about meat. My vice president talked about the meat that is coming from all over, from Latin America. So we can actually focus on import substitution. And at Afreximbank, we've been putting the tools to try and actually achieve that. We know that we have now 49 countries that have ratified the AFCFTA. They are ready to implement the agreement. And we are now coming in as Afreximbank with our facilitation interventions that I'll talk about in a bit to support these countries that are ready to trade under the AFCFTA. And Nigeria is also one of the key countries that we are supporting, and I'm really impressed about the progress that has actually been made by Nigeria towards promoting trade with other African countries, where you've now moved to fourth place and in terms of intra-African trade, and Africa is actually your top market. This is something that is actually laudable. So let me now quickly move on to some of the strategic initiatives. I'll just skip some of these. I want to talk about the adjustment fund. This is a facility that we actually put in place in collaboration with the AFCFTA Secretariat. This initiative was actually requested by the AU heads of state and Afreximbank did not waste time because we believe in the AFCFTA. We worked with the AFCFTA Secretariat, established this 10 billion US dollars adjustment fund. What it does is basically three things. It helps countries that are trying to adjust to the liberalization under the AFCFTA. When you are reducing tariffs, you may incur some short-term disruptions. So the fund will be used to compensate those that may lose revenue in the short term. The other window of the fund, which we call the credit fund, basically provides commercial capital, commercial funding to the business people in this room. If you need funding to retool, to reskill, to participate in the regional value chains, which is basically the key theme of this roadshow,